Hey, speaking of which, though,
yeah,
I'm going to grab this. Just give me 1 second.
Are we really doing show and tell on the radio?
Yeah, we're going to do.
Come on,
Andy, you better think of something to show.
Remember, I don't have anything.
A couple weeks ago, I talked about the hat that Sonny Gray was wearing post game at his locker at Busch Stadium, and I said, "This is a great hat." I tweeted about it, and then I thought someone sent me the link and said, "New era." And I'm like, man, I can't wear Cardinals hats. Like, I'm a writer these days. I won't put this hat on, but I had to buy this hat just to sit on the wall or something.
Oh yeah,
because it is fantastic, and they sold out in had to be just 4 or 5 hours or something, because the next morning when I looked again, they were sold out. So that arrived in the mail. You guys get a look at that. Cardinals fans know what I'm talking about, though. A couple weeks ago, Sonny Gray. It's like a green, kind of a mint green lid with a yellow golf stripe on the front, like the rope that they have for the golf hats. Old school Cardinal logo. So that's my show and tell for a radio program that it's not visual,
right?
So nobody can see it. But Andy, if you have anything, you can
We probably need to let people see it some way, though. Like maybe
I can. I mean, I can retweet from KTGR Big Show the Sonny Gray picture. It's what I'll do.
All right.
To share from a couple of weeks ago, so people know what hat I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'll find it. That's our one show and tell for the year on a radio show.
Were we supposed to be talking about this segment?
I don't know. What was?
Why didn't we just save this for online only? I don't know why we didn't do that.
What day is it? Yeah, that's true.
The Cardinals played like 50 minutes.
Oh, man.
Could have gotten into Cardinals Phillies.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's not that important of a series, if we're being honest. Like,
it's just it's a May baseball. Yeah,
May/June baseball.
It will be.
Who cares?
June.
Lars Nootbaar's hurt, though. That's a little bit of a worry. Yeah, you did.
Yep. That's the oblique.
Yeah.
Obliquey, I said it looked, didn't I?
No, it's not a good injury to have for a hitter like him. And he's on the IL. Ollie Marmol was kind of describing it earlier today, too, wasn't he? About
what did he tell you?
No, he didn't tell me anything.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, I saw
what do you call
he
it?
told
Moderate?
those assembled.
I saw tweets. Yes,
the Avengers.
Yes.
The Avengers were assembled in Philly, and he did say moderate, which is worse than mild.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Give me an over-under. What's a fair over-under?
Oh, man, I don't know.
On how long he's out?
Well, they said several weeks, didn't they?
Yeah, here's the thing. A mild strain is probably every bit of 2 weeks, even a mild one. It's an oblique. You don't want to come back from it too quick and then risk a relapse or a setback. It's probably a better word. You don't want that to happen. So a moderate strain, man, I think over under 3.5 weeks, and that might be a little bit wish casting to think that that's even the median. Does he play in June?
Oh, man.
In St. Louis, because he'll need a week of rehab. I'm going to say if he does, it's by the hair on his chin.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't play in June, then they might as well just say, hey, you're done till the All-Star break or something like that, you know?
I don't know about that. I'm just saying, like, if he has 3 weeks where he's going to have to take it easy and then a week of rehab, that's a month. I mean, then you're back July 1.
I guess. I suppose.
There's no reason to just add arbitrary timelines to it of, well, if he's not back by July 1, he shouldn't play in July. Like, I don't.
Well, but again, you want to be careful with it, I suppose. And at the same time, you understand how important he could be to this team if they are in. Yeah, has been to how well they played the last 2 weeks plus. And so, I mean, I get that part of it. But at the same time, is that timeline going to hold up with this type of injury? Again, it's so crucial that you don't rush it, and that's maybe why I err on the side of caution a little more with that.
They will.
Based on
they're not just going to say, though, if you're not back by July 1, then you don't need to be back till July 19.
No, I get that.
They're not
I
gonna,
understand. Yeah.
But if it's a moderate strain, what does that mean? Couple weeks of just probably nothing, trying to just let it heal, then slowly working your way back into strengthening the muscle again. I think it'll be every bit of 4 weeks before we see him again. That is, I'm no doctor. We're going to obviously get to ask Will Carroll about it next week, but this is a tough one because he has been really important to this Cardinals team. You look at his numbers since May the 5th, he's got like a 970 OPS, and during I call it the winning streak, they're 12 of their last 15. His OPS is around 937, something like that. Looked it up earlier. So, I mean, he's been a catalyst for what they've been doing over this stretch as they've been able to dig their way out of a 9 games below 500 back to even Steven, and now they're not going to have him. That's another guy they're not going to have because they've been doing all of this without Wilson Contreras, which has been really impressive. But Nootbaar's, he's kind of like an engine for this offense. He's been batting in that number 2 spot a lot. Do the Cardinals, let alone this Philly series, but do the Cardinals generally withstand this without him? Because if you look up, I know you love reading the schedule. Yeah. You take a look at the June schedule. It's actually kind of favorable in the early going after you get over the hump of this road trip. The Cardinals have some winnable games on the schedule against some teams that are either bad in the standings or moderate. And I just would hope that the Cardinals are able to take advantage of a bit of a lull in the schedule when it comes. But without Nootbaar, I wonder how much more difficult that becomes.
875 KTGR, what do you expect from this series for the Cardinals at the Phillies? And what do you think of the news about Lars Nootbaar having to be on the shelf for a little bit, probably for most of this month?
And you know who didn't show up today as a corresponding move? Jordan Walker, still in Memphis. It's Fermin
Jose Fermin
up
today.
And he's been great in Memphis.
Yeah, I mean,
Fermin's got like 1,076 OPS. But you thought, hey, outfielder for outfielder, why no Jordan Walker? Well, you know how many plate appearances he's had this year without a homer? Including St. Louis, it's been like 185.
Yeah,
It's something like that. It's a big number.
Man.
And he just hasn't had power.
Yeah, you got to have some sort of lift if you want to have him back in the lineup and producing the way that you expected him to. So it's Jose Fermin for now, and I guess they'll figure.
Like he can't come up and be Harrison Bader, right? Like that's not going to work for the Cardinals if he's just a 270 average, but not just like a little bit. Even Bader has more pop than Walker's shown this year. That maybe was out of school. It's just he can't be a glorified singles hitter and be Jordan Walker. I don't know if that meshes.
They need more than that for sure, and just allow him to figure it out in those plate appearances as opposed to maybe hurting your opportunity of getting somebody else out there in his spot with the big league club. And it's not to say that Fermin comes in and necessarily does that, but you allow yourself to have a little more depth in that spot. What I wonder, though, is, I mean, you've looked at the lineup tonight, right? For
I seen
what they're doing.
Yeah.
No
I saw it. What do you want to know?
No Masyn Winn tonight.
No Masyn Winn, that's right.
No. Brenden Crawford instead.
Sure. He's the backup shortstop, after all. What are your thoughts? Give me your thoughts before I...
Couldn't Jose Fermin play short?
I imagine he could do it, but they don't want him to.
Why not?
I got to tell you, top of mind, I couldn't tell you what the defensive breakdown has been for Jose Fermin in Memphis this year. He bounces around, but I'll have to look it up to see. But typically the Cardinals' viewpoint on him has been not really a big league caliber shortstop. The arm is maybe part of the reason for that. This year in Memphis, he's played shortstop 11 games. He's played second base 14 times and third base in 4 different games. Also had a game in left field for whatever reason. At the big league level, he has not played shortstop for the Cardinals ever, I don't believe, including like last year he never did either.
Okay.
Unless I'm mistaken. He played some second, played some third. So like they have had a concerted effort to keep him off of short. Now, let's talk about the quality of Brandon Crawford's play, though, because what I'm seeing a lot of is people saying, well, couldn't Fermin do what he's doing? And he's got an 0.97 batting average, so I should guess that Fermin could do that. He's 3 for 15 with the Cardinals, so he's hitting 200 this year in a limited sample.
Right.
And the shortstop defense from Brandon Crawford has not really been strong. I've seen him make 1+ play on the season, and I tend to watch most of these games. So, and I've seen a lot of plays where it's just like, maybe he doesn't get an error, but he just doesn't make the play. Doesn't get to the ball or doesn't get the throw off in time. It's just, he's been lackluster at shortstop. So could Jose Fermin do it? Yes. Why isn't he? Well, I think, honestly, from how do you phrase this? From like an organizational perspective, from an interpersonal relations perspective with management to player, if you had Brandon Crawford on your team and today Masyn Winn is sitting, and we can be mad about that if we want, but what the Cardinals have tried to do is when they can get guys multiple days off in a row. So you had the day off for the team yesterday, Winn gets today, and now he's off and running in June. People can be upset about it, but I think it's a purposeful thing. It's okay if you disagree. I'm indifferent on it. I understand it because I think if you don't do it, you end up with like Paul DeYoung from a couple of years ago when he plays every day, and you're going, he stinks. What's wrong with him? Well, he's run down. So they're trying to get out of it on the front end with Masyn Winn. Like it or don't like it, doesn't matter.
No, I'm
but
fine
when
with
it comes
that
to Brandon, right? But when it comes to Crawford, I almost feel like if it's Fermin out there today instead of Brandon Crawford, it puts a big old highlighter on the question of what's he still doing on this roster. And the Cardinals I don't think they want to take him off the roster. So Brandon Crawford is in.
I mean, I do have that question. Why is Brandon Crawford on the roster? So,
and if you have that question out there,
right?
I hear you. I get it.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the big questions I have, at least at this point.
If a guy goes this season and hits 097, and the argument is, well, but we need his glove at short, but he's a below-average defender.
Great glove.
Range is poor. Arm is, whatever. He has some athleticism, so he can make a nice flip to second base and turn a whatever. But if those are what we're working with, then there probably comes a point of time where the Cardinals do maybe shuffle it. But until they're ready to shuffle it, he's going to play on the days that Masyn Winn doesn't. Because I think if you don't, then it invites the question, well, what's he doing here? And they don't need that question if they're not ready to move on from him. Is the most diplomatic, but also blunt to the point way I can explain it.
No, I understand that part of it. If
That's my read,
not used in this exact situation,
then what's he doing here?
Then why did they sign him in the first place?
Or why is he still here? Right? Because I know why they signed him.
Right.
But why is he still here would be.
I mean, I think they should ask that question now, right? Like they should just do it.
I hear you.
And reckon with it now so that they're not taking up a spot to where they could further improve their team. Like plain and simple. Like
what would be real interesting, couple things. One, they're winning right now. So do you change up clubhouse culture while you're winning? He is a veteran player, seemingly liked by all the guys. Whether it's worth anything to you, I think he's the clubhouse DJ most of the time. So he's a vibes guy.
Yeah.
How many of those can you afford on your bench though, who also happen to be left-handed hitters? Like Matt Carpenter is that, Brandon Crawford is that.
Yeah.
Don't you need a righty threat off the bench? These are all fair questions that Cardinals fans could ask. But I think if the Cardinals aren't prepared to do that, especially on a winning streak, why mess with it while you're winning? Then, he plays. But if watch him closely. I mean, if there are plays in this game tonight where it's man, not only could Masyn Winn have made that play because he's elite. Of course he'll make it. But he does need to rest from time to time. But does Fermin make that play? Does Brendan Donovan make that play? Those are questions that if you're a Cardinals fan, I think are totally fair to ask as you watch Brandon Crawford play. And it stinks to have to be so hyper vigilant about a long-time veteran player, a former star. I mean, Brandon Crawford was a star player at the major league level for a long time. He's not that now, but what does he have left in the tank is still kind of a rolling question, I think, here for a lot of people. And the Cardinals are going to be respectful of that, understanding that they did sign him for a reason. Now, that reason is still what happens if Masyn Winn's back in spring is just kablooey, and then we need somebody. They had a vision of what that looked like for a few days when Masyn was out during spring, and they signed Brandon Crawford shortly thereafter. Now, what would be interesting, and hopefully we never find this out, but what would happen if Masyn Winn did have an IL stint and you had to grapple with who plays shortstop? If you can put yourself as the Cardinals front office in that mental space, and the answer isn't Brandon Crawford and you feel good about it, then I think it's fair to wonder, maybe is there a time where you perform a little shuffle? Because that's the reason he'd be here, is insurance against Masyn Winn getting hurt. And if you wouldn't even feel confident using him in that case, then what are we doing?
I wish they would just have the foresight, though, to see, is it even worth it now? If it happened today, would we feel good about it? And if the answer's no, then you probably need to push up that decision-making. That's all I'm saying.
Right, if your thought at that point was, if you, again, play that out hypothetically in your mind and really put yourself in that mental space, if your thought would be, we'd have to split it, Fermin would start a few games a week, Donovan would go there a couple, and Crawford would start a couple, then you go, all right, if nothing else, maybe that's a trade deadline nugget that you kind of think about and say, can you get a utility infielder that can play short, that can ideally hit right-handed, and be a bat off your bench to do a little bit of everything? We'll see if that ends up becoming a need. Maybe Brandon Crawford comes around, but the numbers are what the numbers are at this point. So I understand if people are frustrated by it. Hopefully he hits a tater tonight. I'm going to predict it. Brandon Crawford, home run tonight.
Oh,
everybody gets off his back.
Man.
He's got a lot of pedigree in this league, but I facetious aside, he has struggled this year. I see what you see.
875 KTGR. What could you want to see in this Cardinals-Phillies series. I would be satisfied by the Cardinals just getting one, but I mean...
Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
A lot of people feel that way.
I mean,
they're like, don't take this away from us. We're so close. Don't take it away.
Right.
Don't get swept.
You
need to win the series.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right.
Don't go. It's not like win the series or bust, but it's like go win the series because you're that good.
I'm not saying don't try to. I'm just saying if you don't get swept, then I think for the most part that could be what everyone's expecting out of you. And you've held serve. So, I mean, you haven't necessarily tanked the momentum that you've had from the last 2.5 weeks. So, it's going to be interesting to see.